It's the ultimate revenge. They kick you out and then you come back to make a movie.
I definitely consider myself lucky, making a living doing something creative.
God, what's the matter with my voice?
I think about sometimes looking down the road, do I have a plan for aging in this business?
You think you're a good actor?
I don't think that I'm, good.
Yeah, well, I got news for you. You're a good actor.
Yeah.
We all love a good catchphrase.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Some are self-assigned.
You coined one of the most famous catchphrases in history, I pity the fool.
And others accidental.
All right.
The problem is, not many of us want to spend a lifetime associated with a specific phrase.
Hello, Newman.
And justifiably so. It can carry its own set of negatives. For some, it's reminiscent of a darker period.
Wow, winning.
A time you don't really want to be reminded of. For others, it can create a typecast. After the Terminator, it would be years before we'd see a more wholesome Arnold. Now don't get me wrong, this single line,
I'll be back,
would absolutely skyrocket his career. But at some point, having people shout the same things over and over again,
I get called bitch every day,
must be incredibly exhausting. However, a lot of these are just single instances within a single movie and typically a brief sentence.
You can't handle the truth.
But what if it was just a single word? One word that could help build an entire career. The career of someone like Owen Wilson.
Does Owen Wilson say wow at night at the museum? There's a little bit of a trend here.
Yeah.
Hundreds of people gather to say wow, like Owen Wilson.
People want his positive energy. They want to capture that feeling in the wow.
Wow.
Give us a little
Wow. Look how great they are.
So
wow. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
That's my Owen.
For some of us, when we hear that name, we picture his trademark nose. For others, it's the blonde hair or his laid-back, somewhat nasally tone.
I have not Googled myself. I can't think of anything worse.
But for most of us, there's really only one answer.
Wow.
Now, he's not the only one to essentially become synonymous with a single word. Samuel L. Jackson is a much earlier example.
English, mother. Do you speak it? Yes.
He had taken what was arguably one of the most offensive words in the English language and, with the help of directors like Tarantino, made it effortlessly cool. This isn't a word that works well if it's thrown around by just anyone. You have to carry quite the intimidating presence. A piercing stare, tall frame, and a booming delivery. These pair in harmony to make it work. Though, with Owen Wilson, it's almost the opposite.
He's not a doctor. Not in the Western sense of the word. Not in any sense of the word. You're an investment banker. Many hats.
Owen Wilson has been in at least 68 films. Within them, has said wow well over 100 times.
It's nice to get this validation years later.
Even if he wanted to, it seems like this guy can't possibly escape that word.
It's silly, it's fun, it's playful, it's wow.
But why? Why is it so common within his films, and more importantly, why are people so drawn to it? You can just as easily use an expression to convey shock or awe. Writers tend to avoid using it because it goes against their golden rule of show, don't tell. Owen Wilson has managed to become synonymous with a word that really isn't notable enough to be attached to anything. Yet, be it interviews or the internet, people can't get enough of it.
It's the most distinctive voice in Hollywood, I think. There's no one on this planet who wouldn't know it's you.
The crazy thing is, he's been using it since his very first debut. See, all the way back in 1989, and at the University of Texas, Owen Wilson would meet then aspiring director Wes Anderson. They'd spark a friendship through a playwriting class.
Wes Anderson and I became friends and college roommates,
bonding over a mutual love of directors like John Cassavetes and Martin Scorsese.
And then we started writing a screenplay together.
One that eventually would become the critically acclaimed Bottle Rocket. With Anderson directing and Wilson as a lead, this would end up being both of their feature-length debuts, as well as the first time we'd be hearing his ever-popular catchphrase,
oh wow.
And as the saying goes, the rest is history. Now, if you type in Owen Wilson wow on either Reddit, YouTube, or Twitter, you're almost guaranteed to get a number of different compilations and specific examples throughout his entire filmography.
Wow.
Wow, look at this.
What began as a simple bit ended up spiraling into a major part of his identity.
You have many YouTube videos made by fans of you saying wow.
Yeah, I've heard
Yes.
The fact that it's so insignificant makes obsessing over it that much funnier. It's why things like All-Star by Smash Mouth or the B-Movie were some of the longest running memes. It's pretty enjoyable to like things that are objectively cringe. That's sort of the appeal here. There's a nasally skew to his tone.
Me and my friends have been too busy bathing off the southern coast of St. Bart's with spider monkeys for the past 2 weeks.
And he often says it in a more chill, somewhat confused fashion.
Did you see what she had on yesterday? Wow.
Really putting emphasis on the word itself. This is such a weird thing to obsess over, but that's entirely the point. Yet, if the meme aspect of it would arrive later in his career, why was it included so often? If it wouldn't pay dividends until years or even decades later, what was the point of sneaking it into over half of his roles? What people didn't realize is this was done entirely on purpose.
They're for my sort of really committed fans. I throw out a little word that just sort of a little kind of wink and a nod to them.
Audiences are subconsciously drawn to the familiar. They want a specific trait or quirky habit that they can immediately recall when you bring a name up.
If you're lucky enough to be one of those really committed fans, then I give you these little clues that are out there.
If I asked a fan about Brad Pitt, they'll tell you that he likes to eat in almost all of his films.
I hope you were the groom. Ted Nugent called. He wants his shirt back.
Ask a fan about Christopher Walken, and they'll tell you about his odd pauses and the fluctuating tone.
In one place he knew he could hide something, his ass. 5 long years he wore this watch. Up his ass.
Over time, these traits help you stay relevant in both the memory of the general public and Hollywood alike. Owen Wilson took something pretty insignificant yet commonly used and made it synonymous with his image. Though, in order to effectively do that, you need to be a little obscure yourself. Thankfully, there's not that many actors with surfer blonde hair, a similar tone, or his trademark nose. When a role warranted a familiar presence who could deliver lines in a laid-back, almost quirky fashion, he was your go-to guy.
Oh, or not. I mean, you know, she's an ex-lover. I don't think that would be awkward.
Oh, nonsense. I'm on great terms with all my ex-lovers.
At some point, when you'd watch a film with Owen Wilson, you were almost waiting for him to say it.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
And if you weren't waiting, you'd notice the delivery almost immediately. This allowed his roles to consistently stand out, roles that he typically wouldn't deviate from. I mean, you wouldn't cast Sylvester Stallone in a rom-com, it just doesn't seem like an ideal fit. Fortunately, Owen Wilson has a lot more versatility. We saw this with films like The Minus Man and Behind Enemy Lines. Each performance is distinctively his own. Owen Wilson has been able to carve out an extremely successful career path in an industry so intensely competitive.
Why are you guarded with your emotions? Has it always been that way?
I think it's, well, I think just growing up in Dallas to have said you wanted to be an actor and be in movies would have sounded, yeah, okay, yeah, me too. And then I want to go win the lottery.
He's been able to become a household name and has quite the extensive filmography. This, of course, can be attributed to his talent, ability to network, and on-screen charm. However, it also seems fair to admit that even though the majority of his success stems from a combination of luck and creative direction, it can also be attributed to the use of a single word, one that, depending on how he used it, could have massively shifted the result of his career. Thankfully, he is who he is, and if you asked him, he seems to be exactly where he wants to be.
Took a little bit, a few movies before I could sort of accept or say, I guess this is what I do. I'm an actor.
I guess I'm an actor.
I'm an actor.